What comes to mind when you hear engineering? I think about the kid who was really good at building things with Lego. I was definitely not one of them. I read books. The word engineering conjures math, equations, science, coming together in the creation of machines, buildings, bridges, electrical circuits, polymers, infrastructure. Let me introduce you to Chell Roberts, the founding dean of the Shiley-Marcos School of Engineering, for whom engineering is the unleashing of empathy, creativity, and science to improve communities everywhere and to fuel human progress. And amazingly enough, can even make us see the connections between engineering and theater. So let's listen to Dean Chell Roberts' stories. How did I get here and where am I going? Let's welcome him.
When I woke up this morning, there was something stuck in my brain and I just couldn't get it out. And my face was feeling really funny. And so I went over to the mirror to take a look. And I went, whoa! Because there was this old dude with glasses looking at me. And I said, who are you? And he goes, I'm the Dean of Engineering at the Shiley-Marcos School of Engineering. And I go, dude, what is a Shiley-Marcos? And what is engineering? And then that thing that was in my brain, it's starting to come out. And suddenly I'm remembering, I was reading my book, The Little Engine That Could. And I looked up and I said, Mom, Dad, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm going to be an engineer because engineers drive trains and make people happy. Well, there were lots of things I wanted to be when I was growing up. I was going to be a sports superstar. Bam! I was going to be a pilot. And I was going to be a superhero. And then one day, my mother took me to a play, The Fantastics, and boy, was it. There was this narrator, El Gallo, and he comes out and he goes, try to remember that kind of September. And there was a wall and two houses and a feud between these fathers and these lovers. And suddenly I knew. And I went home and I said, Mom, Dad, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm going to be an actor. Well, I thought this was a good idea because my mother is a poet and my father's a musician and I come from an artsy family. And acting is artsy. But my mother goes, well, Chell, that's never a good thing in my family. She goes, Chell, actors are poor and wait tables all their lives. And besides, you need to take care of me when I get older. Maybe you should be an engineer. And I still wanted to be an actor. And then my uncle, he calls me up 2 weeks later and he says, let's build a solar oven. And we do, and it's like cool, and I crack an egg and the sun cooks it and I go, can we make a pizza and how about a hamburger? Can we make it bigger than that? And my uncle, he laughs and he goes, Chell, you ask a lot of questions. Maybe when you grow up, you should be an engineer. Then my math teacher, another month later, she comes into my class and she goes, Chell, you're doing so well at mathematics. We're going to move you up to the accelerated group. And it's like, cool. And then, bam, it hits me like a load of bricks in the head. My mother, she got to him. She got to all of them. But then, she got to the scholarship committee too. Because before you knew it, I had a full ride scholarship to study mining, engineering, and off I was to school. And in that second semester, we went down into the Anaconda mines, a mile down. And that foreman said, stick out your hand. And he turned off the lights. And he said, can you see your fingers? And then he said, you never will. It's so dark down here. And then something's falling on my head from the ceiling. And I go, whoa, I don't want to be a mining engineer. And then I do what any newly independent first-year student would do. I dropped all my engineering classes. And I signed up for acting. Now, problem was I'm going to lose my scholarship. I didn't want my parents to know. And they find out, and suddenly I need a job. All right, what do actors do? I go get a waiting job. I discover that waiting tables is an upskill. You got to start by washing dishes. All right, so I'm washing dishes for month 1. I'm washing dishes for month 2. I'm washing dishes for month 3. Every night I'm starting to dream of Brillo pads. I am in the wilderness of washing dishes. And then I am discovered by a professor. And the professor did the first thing really important to me. He tightened that screw that my father said was loose in my head. Then he excited me about mathematics, which led to engineering. And before you know it, I'm graduating with a PhD in engineering, and I'm off to teach my first class in engineering. I pulled out my chalk, and I went from left to right, and I went from right to left, and it looked like Einstein's board, and I didn't need any notes at all, and the chalk dust was flying, and I went, ta-da! 6 years later, I'm promoted to associate professor with tenure, mind you, and baby, I had it made. Life was now perfect. I knew where I was going. And then the dean called, and he said, Joe, I'd like you to be on this grant called Bridging Engineering and Education with these 2 professors from the College of Education. Okay. You see, in those days, you did what the dean asked. All right. So we're going to now teach a class together. I'm up first, and it's a graduate level class. Those are even more rigorous. And so I'm going to show them, and I pull out my chalk, and I go from left to right, and I go right to left, and I don't need any notes. And the chalk dust is flying, and I go, ta-da! And they say to me, Chell, you're actually not a very good teacher. And do you even know what engineering is? And I go, whoa! And then they give me this stack of studies. All right, then I discover a few things. So now I got to read, and I got to go discover, and I find out that engineers used to be commodities. That's right. CEO Don, wherever he is, would say to MBA Miles, we need to make 100 million gizmos this year. And Miles would say, well, that's about 8 scoops of engineers, 7.5, and you get a bonus. Boom. Something happened along the way. You see, what happened to engineering is over the years, these companies became multinational, and they started hiring these very diverse people from around the world who cared about the products and where they were going and what they were doing and who they served and who they didn't. And suddenly, these companies are asking me for engineers who understand empathy and cultural sensitivity and ethics and who can lead innovation teams and communicate. And I'm going, whoa! And then they say, where are all your diverse students? Where are the women? Where are all the minority students? Why do they all look like you? And at first I said, well, it's not all bad, is it? But I knew that it was. And I'm reading the studies and I'm trying to figure it out, and then entrepreneurship comes along. And whoa, suddenly engineers and computer scientists, they're starting the companies. It's like hundreds of companies. It's like the Google and it's like the Facebook, and boom, they're going. And suddenly, something dawns on me. It's what the superhero power is of an engineer. I thought it was math, and I thought it was science all along, and those are very, very important for an engineer. But the real graduate level superhero power is this. If you can see the deep technological and the social, and you can see what that technology will do to society, then you can create to make real impact. Now that superhero power can be used for good, or it can be used for bad. But I had new knowledge. The National Academy of Engineering produced a study the year I graduated as an assistant professor, and it said engineering is a social enterprise. I never read it. I had never seen it. They produced another one not that long ago, and this is what they say engineers do. Make life more joyful. Improve health, security, and sustainability. And it's like, I know what engineers do. And so I get this call from the University of San Diego, and I think, that's the place where we could create ethical leaders who could use this superhuman power to do something incredible. So I come and we get a team together, and we write a proposal, and we get the grant. And it's called Change-Making Engineers. But the whole purpose is to infuse that social element so that our engineers can do something very, very different. And yes, we've hired a whole bunch of new people, and now we have modules. And just a few weeks ago, we had, 24 other universities come to learn what we're doing to try to see if they can do it. So I'm excited about that. And at least it's the way I remember things. You see, I woke up one morning, and I looked in the mirror, and there was this little boy. And I knew it was me, and he's asking me questions, but he's not listening to me. And I see him sitting over there on a chair, and he's reading his book. And he's got a mom and a dad and an uncle and a teacher, and they're all telling him he should be an engineer for some reason, mostly about the math. And I'm thinking that someday there's going to be a little girl and a little boy, and they're going to say, I want people not to be hungry. That's food security. I want the world to be safe. That's peace. And you know what we're going to say to them? We're going to say, maybe when you grow up, you should be an actor! Oh, I'm sorry. Every once in a while, it gets loose. Okay, we're okay now. Because really what has to happen is we have to have this diverse group of young people that are designing an incredible world for us, understanding that engineering is socio-technical. So this is what we all need to say. Maybe when you grow up, you will be an engineer.